So it seems that there are more leaks regarding Sony's upcoming PS4 exclusives. For those of you who are not aware, we recently got a leak from a Peruvian retailer claiming that we can expect The Last of Us Part 2 to release October of this year. Now, we're obviously going to have to wait to see if that comes true, although I think a lot of people do see it as a very plausible release date, and we have to understand that this information, including the information I'm going to talk about today, does come shortly after Sony has held their Destination PlayStation press conference, which, for those of you who don't know, it's a private press conference that Sony holds to kind of prep retailers and give them the layout of their plans when it comes to release schedules and time frames and all of that important stuff that retailers need to know for marketing purposes, obviously, and to be ready. But today we have another supposed leaked date for another big PS4 exclusive, that game being Ghost of Tsushima. And it says here that it's been a leaky week for PS4 exclusives. Not only has promotional material for The Last of Us 2 recently given away an October 2019 launch window for Naughty Dog's upcoming sequel, but a Swedish retailer may have just spoiled Sucker Punch's release plans for its feudal Japan set open-world game Ghost of Tsushima. The store listing for Ghost of Tsushima states that the PS4 and potential PS5 title, which is developer Sucker Punch's first new game since 2013's infamous Second Son, which I've heard very good things about, will be releasing August 30th, 2019, and a few clues suggest this is more than just a placeholder date with no bearing on the truth. For one thing, placeholders are usually set by retailers on the last day of any given month. And in this case, that would have to be August 31st, not the day before. August 30th, as it happens, is also a Friday, which is a common weekday of choice for big game releases, given it's right before the weekend. Then there's the fact that following the release of Days Gone and Dreams, Sony needs to fill out the rest of its 2019 calendar with more exclusive titles for its flagship console, and with Death Stranding confirmed to be slightly behind schedule, could Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2 be populating the latter half of PS4's year in the summer and autumn respectively? PlayStation won't be making an appearance at E3 this June, as Sony continues to work on its plans for the PS5, but we can surely expect some announcements about the twilight days of its predecessor soon. So yeah, I think that this is very interesting, even a little bit more interesting than The Last of Us Part 2, because with The Last of Us Part 2 leak, we didn't get a specific day on when it's going to release in October, but I think a lot of us could agree that it does seem like a good time to drop a juggernaut game like The Last of Us Part 2. We know that games that are very, very highly anticipated perform particularly well during the holiday season, and that's really no secret. That's why a lot of these publishers choose to release their games at the same time, unfortunately. It's unfortunate for gamers because it forces us to have to choose, and some games have to take a back seat, but I think that, what they bring up here about the fact that it does say August 30th. That is a very specific date. And it really, I don't know, could we see Ghost of Tsushima launching this close to The Last of Us 2? If these are two games, right? There's no denying, I think, that both Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2 are looked at, especially The Last of Us, as huge AAA titles. Not to mention we are getting Days Gone relatively soon. Could we see 2019 be the year where Days Gone releases, Dreams releases, even if it is in early access, and then we have Ghost of Tsushima released towards summer, and now we're gonna have The Last of Us Part 2 also coming in October? That seems pretty crazy to me, but at the same time, a reason why I think this could be true is, not only because, yeah, it's a very specific date, and normally placeholder dates are not that specific at all, and we are coming off of knowing that Sony held their Destination PlayStation retailer press conference, but knowing that Sony's not going to go to E3 this year, knowing, you have to put yourself in Sony's shoes for a second here, and surely they don't want Microsoft to shift the narrative. And when you think about E3 and the fact that Microsoft's going to have a massive presence there, they're going to have the stage all to themselves, all the coverage to themselves, and we're hearing rumors that they're going to talk about the next generation consoles and that they're going to have some games to show, which would be great. I'm very excited for it. But I'm just saying, when you think about, the position Sony's in, they don't want the pendulum to swing. They don't want the ball in Microsoft's court. And honestly, Sony, they're a very sly company. Like they like to make moves that very much will undercut their competition, and hit them, from behind, I guess you could say, when it comes to stuff like this. So with Sony knowing this, I think there's a good chance that they plan on dropping the news around the time of E3 that Ghost of Tsushima, hey, for anybody who's excited about this, they're gonna launch another extended gameplay look, and then also announce a release date, and we're gonna find out that it's gonna come August 30th. And at the same time, I think they're gonna announce that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be releasing in October of this year. Because think about that for a second, right? Like, Sony doesn't show up at E3, but they announced these 2 release dates for these games. I'm telling you, like, that will effectively suppress anything that Microsoft's going to do at E3. I'm not saying that it won't be exciting and that there's nothing that Microsoft could show that could combat, like, the announcement of these release dates. What I'm just trying to say is that it's really going to take the wind out of Microsoft's sails if they actually announce the release dates for these games, like, right before E3 or around that time in June, in early June. It definitely gives a significant amount of leeway between, the beginning of June till August 30th for people to be prepared. And, I think August 30th is a really good time frame to release a game like Ghost of Tsushima, because traditionally summer is kind of a dead zone, right, for games. And I've always been of the mindset that I would just love for more games to release during the summertime, because I know that not many people are out or home, right? Like, people are on vacation, people are out doing things. But I don't know, man. Like, that doesn't stop me from playing games, and I don't think that stops a lot of people from playing games. And we do have to think August 30th, that is like the very end of summer. Like, that's right into September. So I don't even really know if you could count that as a full-blown summer release. But I don't know. This just seems kind of crazy if this is Sony's plan, because it's going to ensure that, first of all, PlayStation owners have some of the best games to look forward to, clearly, of 2019. It'll ensure that Microsoft doesn't completely control the narrative. I mean, there's no denying that when we heard that Sony wasn't going to be at E3, we've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, Sony doesn't have anything this year to show, and it's going to be a quiet year for them, a dead year, and whatever. There have been some people who believe this, but I don't think that's what Sony plans to do at all. Just because they don't plan on showing up at E3, first of all, doesn't mean they're not going to have a PSX this year. I think we can definitely safely say they're going to do that. And that certainly doesn't mean that Days Gone and Dreams are going to be the only titles we can expect from Sony this year. In fact, I think they have huge plans, and I don't think that, them not showing up at E3 is really going to have a negative impact over what gamers can expect to be doing with their PS4s this year. So, I don't know. Thinking about this, that'd be kind of crazy. One last thing I do want to say here is that another reason I do think this is likely, I think a big question a lot of people would have is, well, is this enough breathing room? Is this, risky, releasing Ghost of Tsushima this close to The Last of Us if these leaks are true? What about 2020? What is Sony going to have for 2020? Well, this is where I think, like, Sony has obviously very, very big plans for 2020, and the PS5 undoubtedly is part of those plans. And there are games that they are going to announce in 2020 that are going to launch alongside or very close to the release of the PS5. And I think Death Stranding at this point could end up being one of them. I think it's safe to say Death Stranding is definitely not 2019. But it's going to be more than just Death Stranding. So with that knowledge, I could see Sony really trying to make 2019 the last, like, big year for PS4 by dropping games like Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2 alongside Days Gone, because, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm presuming a little too much here, but I feel like Ghost of Tsushima has a lot of potential. There's a lot of people who are excited for it, and Sucker Punch has been working on it for a while, and it is a new IP from them, so I think it will do pretty well. But if they drop The Last of Us Part 2, I think it's safe to say that that's going to probably be Game of the Year, and that would mean that Sony would have Game of the Year for God of War in 2018, and then potentially Game of the Year for The Last of Us Part 2 in 2019, and then going into 2020, the announcement of the PS5 and new games alongside that PS5. That's how I kind of envision Sony handling the next 2 years or so. And that's, of course, assuming that these leaks are true. But there is some significant evidence here that kind of points towards this being a real possibility. I know a lot of people just assume that, oh, these listings are fake and it's whatever. But no, if there's any, retailers have this information right now. That's what's important to understand. Like, retailers know what Sony's plans are. They have this inside information that the public doesn't. And when all of these retailers around the world, considering how popular PlayStation is as a brand globally, I don't think it's unrealistic to buy into this and believe these leaks, because I think they could be true. I really do. Maybe it's just a little bit of wishful thinking, on my part. I would love to see Ghost of Tsushima launch this year alongside The Last of Us Part 2, as long as they have at least enough breathing room to comfortably launch, right? But yeah, I think it's some significant information. The last thing I want to add here, because I'm positive that some people will mention it in the comments below, is there was a recent controversy regarding Devil May Cry 5 and censorship with Sony. And I don't mean to make this video, just suddenly make a U-turn here. I'm not going to go into it right now in this video, because it's already I'm 12 minutes in, and I really just wanted to have like a positive video focusing on these games. But I am aware of it, and I do want to let you guys know that I do plan on talking about it a little bit, because I think there is definitely some significance to what's been going on with Sony and their censorship, and especially with what apparently is going on with Devil May Cry 5. And I do have an opinion on that I want to share. So maybe I'll make a video on that tomorrow or the next time I get a chance. But I really wanted to, any opportunity I have here to talk about the games first, that's what I want to do, because that's what's most important to me. And I think that, especially coming off of the leak with The Last of Us Part 2, I really wanted to get this out here and let you guys know about it, because I kind of came across it randomly. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, be sure to leave it a like. It really helps. Make sure you also let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Do you believe this leak? Do you think it's possible we could see Ghost of Tsushima on August 30th of this year, and then The Last of Us Part 2 to kind of round out the year during the holiday season, dropping maybe late October? I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification, and share the video out on top of all that, because it helps tremendously. But until next time, guys, take care.